Hey love, Emily here. I have a special invitation to share with you today. I am hosting a free challenge called Accelerate Your Income to support you to align and grow your business to generate consistent 6 to 8K months with ease as we kick off this year. You can sign up today to receive all the details and daily challenges on my website at emilycastle.com/challenge. I can't wait to support you to kick off this year feeling totally alive and set up for success in your business. And as always, I'd be super grateful if you'd feel called to share the Accelerate Your Income Challenge with your friends. So be sure to tag me on Instagram at Emily Castle Official and let me know you've signed up so that I can celebrate with you and say thank you personally. Don't forget to head to emilycastle.com/challenge right now to join us. I'll see you inside. Welcome to Sexy Soulful Success, the podcast for women leaders who are ready to transition from exhausted hustle to enlivened flow in their businesses and beyond. I'm your host, Emily Castle, leadership and business coach for ambitious, high-achieving women entrepreneurs. We will be hearing real behind-the-scenes stories, inspiring words of wisdom, and actionable strategies from women who are creating their empires with sexy confidence, soulful alignment, and an abundant mindset for success. You'll also hear shorter solo episodes from me to help you launch, grow, and scale your business by working smarter, not harder. Plus, you'll have the opportunity to listen in as I coach real women leaders from our community about challenges and burning questions in their businesses. My mission is to help you walk away feeling more confident in your own journey, free to embrace and express your innate feminine wisdom in all you do, ready to deliver your unique contribution to the world, and inspired to take the necessary action to grow your impact and income through your business. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back, everyone. I'm so excited to have Teneshia Jackson Warner with us today. Teneshia is an award-winning multicultural marketing expert, a purpose-driven entrepreneur, and author of the book, The Big Stretch, which we have here with us today. I'm super excited to chat with you about this. She is the founder, the CEO, and the Chief Creative Officer of, you're going to have to correct me.
Egami.
Egami. Okay, that's what I was going to say. And then I was like, maybe it's an acronym that you pronounce each letter individually, but that would be long. So Egami Group, a leading multicultural marketing and communications firm in Manhattan with clients such as Procter & Gamble, Target, Verizon Wireless, My Black is Beautiful, U.S. Army, Hennessy, Major League Baseball, and Toyota. She is an incredible, incredible woman with a long list of accolades and accomplishments and involvements and beautiful purpose-driven work. So welcome to the show, love. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you, Emily, for having me. I'm so excited to chat with you today and chat with your listeners. So thank you.
You're so welcome. So good to have you here. I'm just blown away by your bio and all the things that you've accomplished and created. So I'm excited. I know that this is going to be a really powerful conversation today. So, my first question is, what does sexy, soulful success mean to you?
All right. Well, let me first start by saying, Emily, you definitely have a unique platform. No one in my life has ever asked me that question, nor have I ever actually seen those particular words put together. Mm-hmm. Sexy, soulful success. So this is going to be exciting. Mm-hmm. So what does sexy, soulful success mean to me? I feel like it means, as a woman, that I get to bring my whole self to the work experience. I get to appreciate different feminine aspects of what it means to be a woman in business. I get to bring my soul and all the sassiness that comes with my personality into the workplace. And that will be welcome in a new definition of success. I think if you think about some of the typical things that we've been taught as women, number one, in business, we're not supposed to seem, too emotional or too over the, let's say emotional, right? Well, a part of my soulfulness and my sassiness, that may read to others as, oh boy, she will give it to you. Why can't it just be passion? Yeah. So I like this because I feel that the soulful part allows me or women to bring the sassiness into it as well. Mm-hmm. And the sexy, I love that you said that. So I absolutely love fashion. I love clothing. And I am a woman that also appreciates my silhouette. Mm-hmm. I appreciate my body, and I dress accordingly. And
I love that.
I think it's cool that, you know, you have this definition of success where the sexy and soulfulness is already sort of framed into what does success look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that like full expression, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially that full expression of who we can be as women in the world, and as women leading businesses or leading missions that we're on, whatever that looks like for each of us individually. I think that's so, so important that we're able to bring our full selves and not feel like we have to shrink or hide or contort into a box that's already created, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. So I'm so excited to dig in and just get to know you and your story and about your work, because I know you're doing really big, important things in the world in many different capacities. So I would love for you to just share, like, where do you come from and what's the story? Like, how did you get to where you are today, leading this beautiful company with a beautiful mission and writing this incredible book, which we'll dive into more, you guys, but this is a great book. I love it so much. It simplifies the process of really like expanding your dreams and crushing your goals and creating your own type of success on your own terms. So I know we're cut from the same cloth in that ideology of like, dreams are possible.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well, I'll start from the beginning. I am a Southern belle, and you probably will hear the accent.
I love that.
I'm originally from Dothan, Alabama, and I grew up in Alabama. I went to college in Alabama at Alabama A&M, and then shortly after college, I relocated to Minneapolis, Minnesota, working with IBM Global Services. I was at IBM Global Services for about 5 years. I was a project manager. One of my key client accounts was Best Buy. And I was on this sort of fast trajectory to move up the corporate ladder. There was one problem with the formula that was happening. And that one problem is I absolutely hated my job. And I didn't really, I knew I didn't like my job, but I didn't really understand the reason behind it until I was working on my master's. And a professor challenged me to take a look at every major decision that I ever made. And he wanted to know, what was your driving sort of determination behind that decision? I had a huge aha, and my aha was, at that point, the driver of my decisions, it was all about earning potential. It was all about money. And so I made a decision. I was pretty young back then. I can't believe I'm saying back then. But I made a decision. I mean, I was in my late 20s, but I made a decision that, you know what? I'm not going to allow money to be in the driver's seat anymore. I want to see what could my career look like if I allow purpose and passion to be in the driver's seat of my decisions. And that kicked me off on truly a journey to discover my purpose. I did things like jot down what were the things I was passionate about. I realized I was passionate about fashion, entertainment, music, but I didn't know anyone in that arena. And so I had a big idea around, if I could land an opportunity at a major fashion or media company and learn from someone at the top, I felt like that would allow me to, number one, transfer into a new field, but number two, do it at a faster pace if I could learn from, someone that was at the top. And so there is a company in New York called Rush Communications, and that company is led by Russell Simmons and Russell Simmons. And they were on the forefront of creating a lot, whether it was fat fashions, baby fat, Def Jam music. You had a lot of other executives like Kevin Liles and P. Diddy that were all sort of branching out because they had a starting place from this particular company. Well, I landed an opportunity to start at this company, and I started by pitching myself to work for no fee in exchange for an opportunity to learn.
Oh, wow.
And so I made a big leap. I left Minneapolis. I came to New York. I really didn't know anybody, but I was successful in landing this unpaid internship, right? And I learned a lot at Rush. I worked my way up from not even an intern, because at least interns are paid, from, let's just say, below an intern to general manager in 1 year. And that was huge for me. I learned a lot about pop culture, urban culture, multicultural communities. And I actually realized that I missed what I ran from. So I miss corporate America. And that's what led me to starting Egami Group, because I decided, is there a way that I can take the creative aspects of, music, entertainment, and culture, but do it in a more structured scene of working with corporate partners? Because working completely in creative fields, it was like I started to miss the structure, and it just worked. And so I started this agency. I didn't even know what an agency was when I started Egami Group.
I love that.
I didn't. And
figure it out as you go, right?
You know what they say, entrepreneurs sort of jump out the plane and they figure out how to build that plane on the way down. And that's really what I did. I ended up getting some amazing clients like Procter & Gamble, Verizon, Major League Baseball along the way. And I've been growing the firm along with my team here at Egami. So that's me in a nutshell.
Amazing.
I know that was kind of long.
No, I'm sure it's actually so much longer, right? Every time someone ever asks me to tell my story, I'm like, what do you want from zygote to today? Because that's a bit there's so much detail and things I could share. What's the most important stuff that you actually want to know? So I understand. Thank you for sharing that. You did it very succinctly, actually. So
Good
job. No, but I can only imagine what that must have been like for you. I'm curious, in the moment where you were like, okay, I'm just going to reach out to Rush and offer to do this unpaid opportunity. I'm not even sure what it is. Where do you think you learned that was a possibility? Does that make sense?
That's such a good question, Emily.
You were like, oh, I'll just do this. Because I think that's the thing that a lot of people are unwilling to do, or there's so much that blocks us from taking that first step that's really courageous and just putting it out there and pitching.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you this, and I know we'll talk more about this later, but inside of the book that I just recently wrote, The Big Stretch, there's a 4-phased approach that I now know that hundreds of thousands of dreamers that I've spoken to in the last 3 years, this is sort of the realizing or achieving formula. There's a stage in there that's all around dare. So typically, the dream that you're going to have that's inside of your heart, usually those dreams, they don't live within the zip code of our comfort zone. It just never works out that way. So even though at the time when I made the big leap from IBM, I didn't really know that, because at the time I hadn't studied formulas of so many dreamers.
Right.
I think for me in that moment, and there's a quote, I don't want to misquote it, but it says something like, the moment comes when it's more painful to stay closed in a tight bud, that when that moment of that pain is more than you can take, than the risk it would take to simply blossom. And again, I know the quote isn't exact, but it's one of Alicia Keys and India Ari. They say this quote all the time, and it always warms my heart. But it resonated with me. I think in that moment, I just knew to stay stagnant. I was at a place I was not fulfilled, and it was taking too much out of me that the risk became okay. Yeah. It was I'll take the jump, and if I fall, I fall. But the pain of staying stagnant when I know I'm not fulfilled and I know this has nothing to do with my purpose, it just got greater than the fear of the risk, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yes. And I know what quote you're speaking of.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
It's I'm going to butcher her name, but it's Anais Nin or something.
Yeah. I'm going to try to look it up while we talk.
Yeah. I don't know how to pronounce her first name. I'm not sure what the origin is, but it's a beautiful quote. Yeah. I love that one. And so true and so relevant to the journey of having a dream in the first place, and then actually doing the thing, taking the first step to bring it to life and make it real. Right.
Yes. And if I find that quote, I'm going to, yeah, here it is. Are you ready?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. And then I got to come back to you because I can't see you. It says, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. So that is what it was for me in that moment. It wasn't that I wasn't scared. It wasn't that I didn't have fear. It wasn't that I was like this overly confident person. No, I was scared. I had fear, but the pain of staying stagnant started to outweigh the risk.
I can totally relate to moments like that. And it's like, that's when you're willing to do the long shot thing. Cause you just think, why not? Exactly. What do I have to lose? They say no. And I stay exactly where I am. Okay. Well, I'm already doing that. So what's the difference, right? I might as well take the risk and ask the question, or else the answer is always going to be no. Yes. Okay. So I know in your book, you talk about the difference between a dream and a mega dream.
Ooh,
and I really loved
the book, Emily.
I have. I've done my research. No, but I love, all jokes aside, I am a big believer that like absolutely anything we can envision is possible. It's absolutely possible. And I've been seeing the reverberation of that. I've been in business for 5 years full time for myself now. And I have been seeing within the last few weeks, actually. So it's actually perfect divine timing that we're meeting right now today, because had we met when we originally scheduled, it wouldn't have been the case at the time. So this is so perfect. But I'm in this moment right now where I'm seeing the reverberation of all the seeds that I've planted and all the things they're like blooming. And I'm like, whoa, how, like, it really is possible. Like, it's one thing to talk about it and say like in theory and the spiritual laws of the universe say, and like all that stuff and all the inspirational quotes, but like that is real. And I've always believed that. And I know that deep within me, but there's a difference. I think for a lot of people, if you don't grow up hearing that, or if you don't consistently feed your mind that information and that perspective, that we can start to believe that that's not possible. So I love the idea, like, the idea of helping someone bring their dream to life is really why I think I'm on this planet. And I love that. So I love this book and the way that you go about teaching the process of bringing a dream from idea to reality. But yeah, so back to my original question, you talk about the difference between a dream and a mega dream. So what for you is the difference between the two?
All right. Follow me on this. I would have to say, if I broke it down, I think the difference between a dream and a mega dream is probably the dream that you have for yourself versus the dream that maybe God has for you. And if you're living inside of what you think the dream should be, it's only natural that you're going to put some limitations around it, right? I'll give you a story to kind of illustrate this. So I created a platform called The Dream Project. And it was all around supporting professionals to take their business ideas to the next level. Again, I had never created a conference, but I'm just doing stuff, right? So I created this conference. I would host it each year in Atlanta. I had corporate partners, Verizon, Prudential, Samsung, and I would bring in different speakers, Magic Johnson, Jennifer Fleiss, Kathy Hughes, just tons of iconic dreamers, right? Well, I had this one author that was going to be a speaker. His name is Dr. Bruce Wilkinson, and he's the author of a book called The Dream Giver. So I was like, he'll be perfect because it's one of my favorite books. And I prep all of my speakers before they go on the stage. And so I was having a business meeting with him under the context of I'm prepping you for a business meeting. And of course, prepping you for the conference. And he did all of the logistics. And then at the end of the interview of me prepping him, he said, Teneshia, I have a question for you. I was like, okay. He said, what is your dream for this dream? And I was like, what are you talking about? He was like, what's your dream for your dream? No one had ever asked me that. And it was like, it was an odd question, and it put me on the spot. And I said, maybe, and at the time, Dream Project was attracting around 300 participants. And I said, okay, maybe my dream is if we could get this conference to have 1,000 people attend. And I sat back like, that's a good dream. And I heard in his voice that it was something not right. And I said, what's wrong? And he said, my, how small you're holding God. And it pierced my heart. And when it pierced my heart, to me, what it did was say, there's a whole expansion that's that's out there that I'm not accessing because I won't even let my mind go there because I'm only thinking through the limits of what I can do in my own strength. But what if this isn't about us doing it in our own strength? What if there is a spiritual element? What if there is a divine element tied in? And it just served as this expansion where I was like, you know what, maybe let me get out of the way and leave room for this thing to be bigger than what I even know. And fast forward, I ended up doing a partnership with, his name is TD Jakes. He is a well-known thought leader, entrepreneur, business person. He's also a well-known pastor throughout the U.S. He has this big conference called Mega Fest. It attracts 100,000 people.
Wow.
I ended up doing a partnership with him. And within that partnership, we created something together called Mega Dream. And when I walked out on the stage in my very first session, there was over 3,500 people looking back at me. Every session had around 3,000 or 4,000 people. But there was a moment when I got on the main stage. And the main stage, there was over 100,000 people in that arena. The difference between my little, if I could get 1,000 people, and when I walked on that stage and looked at 100,000 people, the difference is I left room to be awed by God. I left room to have a dream be beyond what I can even do in my own strength. And I think it's just keeping that expanded mind open that just what if this isn't about you doing this on your own? What if this is about your life plan? What if this has your life purpose in it? What if there's a part of divinity in this? And that's the difference for me.
Oh gosh, I love that answer so much. And that story is such a perfect example.
Oh, thank you.
I just led a free training for my community the other night, and it's called the 2020 Vision Training, just helping them set their vision for the year ahead and plan their goals and that kind of thing. And one of the things that I said was, and this is specifically for women entrepreneurs, I said, leave space for magic. Because
I love it.
We can never, the thing that frustrates me so much in like traditional business advice is like have every second of every day and everything planned out completely for the whole year before you even know what the opportunities are that are coming to you. And then when they come, there's no space for them. So of course you're not receiving them. And there's so much I could say about that, but I actually think we're so on the same wavelength, Emily. I don't know if it was that exact terminology, but I said something like that, like have your plan, but you got to leave room for the plan to be bigger than what you ever expect. Totally. And I think that's a mistake that a lot of people make. And then they're like frustrated by why is this not working, or why is it not gaining traction, or why is it, why am I not getting the clients or the money that I want to be making, or whatever the goal is, because we're like so myopic about it. And so we shrink it to be what we can control with our own mind. And we don't leave space for any kind of miracles, magic, divinity, synchronicity, collaboration, amazing opportunities just falling in our lap, right? If we were so rigid, it just breaks, right? Anything that's so rigid, like a storm comes or something and the tree limb just breaks. But bamboo is like, woo, we can deal with the breeze and all the things are resilient, right? And I just think if we were to build our businesses that way and pursue our dreams that way, where there's space for that kind of guidance, that kind of listening, that kind of tuning in, that kind of receiving, then we're in a much better space and we're working for something that's so much bigger than what we can possibly conceive with our own human mind that has limitations, as you said, and that we're sort of getting in the way of the bigger thing coming through us. So I love that. Woo! What is it for you about dreams that, like, how do you write a book on it? Because obviously if you write a book on something, you're like real committed and you're in it and you care. So what is it about like dreams or the power of dreams or having a dream that really feels so special, or what is it that pulls you or calls you to that?
Again, and I hate for this to sound cliche, but honestly, I'm aware now that I just honestly think it's a part of my purpose and calling. So when I look back, I've always been fascinated with dreams, the stories of dreamers. When I was in kindergarten, I can remember, first grade, my teacher, her name was Angela Thomas. I loved her. I can remember talking to Miss Thomas saying, "Why did you choose to be a teacher? How did you know you wanted to be a teacher? Are you supposed to be a teacher?"
Oh,
like, so when I think back, I've always been fascinated with the story of why did you choose what you chose? And it's just natural. Yeah. And so it's just probably always been there, but it became more clear to me over time. Yeah. So I guess first I had to go live the life of a dreamer myself, right? So when I wrote the resignation letter for IBM Global Services, I was very aware, like this is not going to be received well from my family. My grandma wanted me to land a good job. I knew, I'm not even going to tell my grandma about this because she's not going to understand me. I kind of knew like, okay, I'm trading in the hat of normal and I'm putting on like some other type of courageous super cape, like I'm going on another path. I started living the path of following my dreams first. Inside of doing that, at some point, other people would come to me and say, I'm thinking about, here's what happens. Like what happened is happening with you now, Emily. When you started Sexy Soulful Success, I'm sure other people came to you and said, how'd you do it? Right? Or how'd you know you could do it? When one dreamer starts to live out their journey, it's only natural. You're going to attract, it's inspiring to others to say, well, maybe I should go do this too. Yeah. So that was another piece. People actually started coming to me. Like, you need to pay attention to what's chasing you as well. I always say that as well. So individuals would come to me and say, can you help me out? I'm thinking about doing this. Do you think I can do it? How would you go about doing it? And it was all along the lines of, I'm thinking about potentially being daring enough to live a more purposeful life, or daring enough to fulfill a dream that is in my heart. And so it kind of, I lived it and I also attracted others.
Yeah, I love that. But it was something that for you was always just curiosity.
I can watch, if you want to get me, I can turn on the TV and watch documentary after documentary of inspiring stories, right?
And it's funny, like it only recently occurred to me that that's not everybody's that is not endlessly fascinating to everyone. But for me and for people like you and I, it's like I could just sit and listen all day. Like, have you watched on Netflix, Reese Witherspoon just put out recently like an interview little docuseries?
No, I'm going to take it down.
Yeah, it's called Shine On with Reese. And she interviews like Dolly Parton, just like so many, like across the board, women are awesome. All different fields and things. It's really awesome. But yeah, so that for me is like, I totally feel you on that. Such like when I started my business, my first title was life coach and dream weaver, which now I'm like, oh my God, how embarrassing. But also like, how cool.
I love it. Oh man.
What does, so I know in this beautiful book that you've created, there's a 90-day time frame that you recommend that people go through this process. Why 90 days? I know that there's significance around that. I've heard other things, but for everybody listening, like, why is it 90 days? Why is that a great time frame to tackle this?
Well, one, I would say first and foremost, I wanted to make sure that this was not a dream pie in the sky book that did not drop the dreamer down into action. Yeah. So I've also been to those conferences as well. Like, have you ever been to a conference? And I go to so many conferences, but have you ever been and you feel like, oh my God, I'm on fire?
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and
what do I do with this?
And
what do I do with my hands? It's like that. It's like I have all this energy. Yeah.
So number one, I wanted to make sure that whatever I created, yes, it was to stir your soul up. It was to have you think about that dream. But once you got a glimpse of what it was, I knew it was very important to drop the reader into action. How do you now move that dream out of this idea atmosphere down into the reality of the world? And it had to also be action oriented. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, the reason why I chose 90 days is currently in my own achievement process here at my company, we're on a 90-day cycle, a quarterly cycle. Yeah. We set our goals for the overall year. And then once we can see where we're going from a year perspective, we ask ourselves the question, if that's what the vision is that we want to create in a year, what is it that I need to focus on now over the next 90-day period? And 90 days, it's enough time that you can break it down and you can actually get substantial results done. So it's not too short where, you know, it's not about substantial results, but it's also not too long. We have business advisors and coaches that I also have work with my executive leadership team. And one of my business advisors, his name's Dan, he basically advised, if you go beyond that 90-day mark, you and your executive leadership team, you all start to lose focus. Like at some point, it's like, no, I didn't achieve it, but it's okay. So 90 days is a quarter. It gives you enough time to set a goal, and it's very important that you hold yourself accountable.
I love that. This is such a great point. I started doing this in my own business and started teaching this to my clients this past summer. And it's been game changing across the board. And I didn't even realize how much like potential I was leaving untapped by having like you said, losing focus beyond that 90-day scope. Things just start being like, oh, well, you know, it just wasn't meant to be, or whatever, you know, like we make up these excuses and it's like, oh, you know, it wasn't meant to be, or it just wasn't the right time. And really that's like a sneaky excuse for not, and you know, we do our best until we know better and then we do better. But with a 90-day scope, it's totally game changing. Totally game changing. You can actually create the big things. And I've heard before that we something like we overestimate how much we can do in, you know, a year, but we underestimate how much we can do in something like we overestimate how much we can do in a day, but we underestimate how much we can do in a year or like 10 years or a longer time frame. So when we actually break that down, we can make things that seem impossible or like they're going to take 10 years or 5 years happen in like 3 months or 6 months. And it's amazing to watch because it really does work that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, we have at my company, we call it like just basically achieving the results. We have achieved some major results by staying on that cycle and just breaking it down into those increments. I mean, it's been pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And it's also a way where you can, you have to look yourself in the face and say, did I do it or did I not?
Yeah. Yeah. And am I okay with that? Or do I want to recommit to that? Or is it just something that actually wasn't that important in the first place, or wasn't the goal that we wanted to be focusing on? And there was something else that came in that's actually more suitable or more aligned or something. Okay, I also want to hear about what Egami group, does that stand for something? Or is it something that you just like
created? Take a look.
Yeah.
Okay, take a look one more time before I tell you.
Wait. Backwards, it spells image.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, all right. So you don't know how many people don't get that. So it spells image backwards. And the idea is we help you discover your brand image from the inside out. So like your image in reverse. Yeah.
Oh my God. You're genius. That's so good. And so creative. And also such a nod to like the creative work that you probably do for people that is like, we put our creativity into the name. So you have to figure it out, Oh, so good. I love that. Okay. Was there something for you that like, what was it that had you start that company or that group agency? I think you called it before initially.
When I originally got the word Egami, like I talk about this as well in the big stretch, like the importance of giving yourself time to imagine, the importance of almost being an observer to know when do you receive your creative ideas, and are you putting yourself in environments to receive those ideas? So for me, the word Egami came almost like through an imagination session where I knew, I was like, oh my God, this would be so amazing. It's image spelled backwards. Are we supposed to help people discover their image? And like, I had no idea, like, how is this going to shape up?
Right.
And so also I had to be patient for it almost to reveal itself to me. I knew it was something special about the idea of creating a company named Egami that was image backwards, but I had absolutely no idea when the timing was going to come to do something with that. I had no idea what was going to be.
Right.
And when I landed the opportunity at Rush Communications, remember I told you I started as like an unpaid person, not even an intern. Well, I did really well on a particular assignment after maybe being there about 6 months. And the leader, there was someone in leadership that actually approached me and said, okay, you've done a phenomenal job. We want to hire you. And I said, you know what? You shouldn't hire me. You should hire my company. And they were like,
ooh,
you didn't even know you had. Listen, they were like, we didn't even know you had a company. And Emily, I didn't even know I had a company.
You're like, I didn't either.
But I knew I had that word. It was like a little bit of an idea. And they actually ended up going for it. So I negotiated a contract where the services that I provided Rush Communications would be paid through this entity, Egami. I had the contract opportunity, and then I had to go incorporate the company. So even when I incorporated the company, I still was unclear, like, what is this going to ultimately become? I knew the services that I was able to negotiate. So for years, most people that knew me, they didn't even know I had a company. They really thought I was the general manager of Rush Communications and that I was an employee of Rush, but I wasn't. The deal was actually done through my company. And that was like that for maybe 4 years. And then I actually had a chance to work with the CEO of Jostens. Jostens is a leading product provider of jewelry in U.S. high schools. And this CEO said, listen, should I be paying attention to urban culture, pop culture? And I said, yes. And I gave him like insights. I gave him this idea to do co-branded rings with celebrities. And so he said, okay, if you think you can do it, I want you to go do it for me. I ended up getting a class ring done with Beyonce that ended up becoming the #1 selling class ring for a number of years.
Wow.
And so when I did that, I thought, oh my God, this felt amazing. If I could somehow replicate what I just did with this formula and do it over and over for other brands, that's what I want to do. And a friend looked at the work that I did with Jostens and he told me, oh my God, T, I don't know if you know it, but the work that you're doing, you're doing the work of an agency. And in full transparency, Emily, I said, what is an agency? I didn't even know what an agency was.
Right. Like, what does that mean?
I'd never been exposed to it. And then once he told me, I did my research, I met with other people at agencies, and then I became sure that's what I want this company to be. So even with that, if you're looking for a clean plan where it's all figured out, go talk to some dreamers. You figure stuff out along the way, and you have to be patient too, because it will almost reveal itself over a period of time.
Mm-hmm. What I love about the way that I've read about your company and your bio is that it's it's actually the most successful multicultural marketing and communications firm. And I'm curious what that means to you. Like, how did that multicultural piece come out? And is that, because I think there are two ways that I see that can be understood by people. So it's like, is it internal, external, both? Like, what is the value as you see it to being like a multicultural marketing and communications firm? Does that question make sense?
Yep, it makes sense.
Asking?
So
yeah.
Again, some of my early assignments when I transitioned over into entertainment, working with Rush Communications, a lot of the work that I did was geared towards serving multicultural communities. And when I define multicultural, it's African American, Hispanic, women, Asian. The work with Russell, though, was, I would say, urban culture, right? I didn't even know that I was starting to build a passion. It was really a lot of my early assignments. I was getting an understanding of how do you reach these unique audience sets in culturally relevant ways. Again, I didn't know that's what was happening. Yeah. But once I got it, right, and pay attention to what chases you, the CEO of Jostens, he wanted to know, should I be paying attention to this pop movement? Should I pay attention to hip hop? And I was like, absolutely. Let me tell you why. 1 out of 2 students will identify with this. Here's why your class rings aren't selling. They're old. You have what the student's great-great-grandmother had. Like, you need to like have your products become fresher. And then he's like, well, how would I make it fresh? I was like, do one with Beyonce. Like, so I didn't realize that's what was happening.
Right.
And once I did, I just knew that our niche was going to be multicultural. I have a passion of, and again, let me define multicultural through our lens. That's African American, Hispanic, women, LGBTQ, Asian. It's communities that are deemed as minorities in this country. I felt there were agencies that knew how to market to general market, that knew how to market to the masses. But in order to have the understanding to market to these minority audiences, which are now becoming the majority, there was a certain understanding of cultural competency, cultural relevance that would be needed to say that consumer should see that campaign and say, that's for me.
Right.
It's that person understands my values. That person understands, this is the unique way to speak to me. And I was more passionate about the multicultural communities. And I knew it was a need too.
Yeah, I love that. And what also, like, from a business and marketing standpoint, like, what an untapped potential in the marketplace. Like, there are these amazing groups of people who, like, are dying for companies to speak directly to them and to create specifically for them. Of course, like, that's so amazing, and such a beautiful bridge of knowledge and experience and, like, opportunity, and allowing your work, I would imagine, through your agency to help companies become more culturally, aware and relevant, to not forget to speak to people who might be marginalized in some way. It's so beautiful. I love that. I love that so much. Okay. So I know we're wrapping up our time here, but I'm curious to know, what over the course of your beautiful career are you most proud of at this moment, or at this time, or in this season of your life?
Okay. When you say in this season, I would probably have to say the latest creation, which is The Big Stretch. Yeah. And again, that's because you put in this season. Yeah.
Okay. What about overall? We can
overall.
Talk about that too.
Okay. All right. So I'll do both. The reason why I'm most proud of The Big Stretch right now in this season is, honestly, I took a year away from my business, which, this as an entrepreneur, that was a big decision for me to take a year away to go pour my heart and soul into a piece of work that I absolutely think is the tool that can support others throughout the world to have the courage to live out and go after their dreams. I interviewed iconic dreamers like Magic Johnson, Christine Kane, Jennifer Fleiss. It took hours of interviews. It took hours of studying content to kind of distill it into this dreamer's blueprint. So for me, I knew when I came, and I wrote the book in a cabin in Blue Ridge, Georgia. I knew if I'm going to sacrifice and take this time away from my company, I need to make sure it's a piece of work that can impact this world. Mm-hmm. And I can honestly say the feedback that I'm starting to receive and even the reviews from readers on Amazon that I do not know. That's what I love. Yeah. Readers that I have no idea, like I don't know them. And they're like, oh my God, this is it. I can figure out a way to move this idea from idea to reality. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm most proud of this piece of work in this season. I would probably say what I'm most proud of in general, holistically, I am most proud that when I look in the mirror, I am still looking back at a dreamer that is committed to continuous expanding, continual evolving, that I am still as thirsty for stretching and evolving as I was the first day that I showed up in New York City. That's what I'm most proud of, is that I am as hungry today as I was when I came to this city with 2 bags and didn't know anyone. I'm just as eager. I'm just as hungry. I'm just as determined.
Ugh, that's my favorite answer of all time. Oh. I love that. I love that so much because I think there's something so that's intentional. That doesn't happen by accident. You know what I mean? Like to be continually stretching your edges and growing and devoted to that takes intention. That takes devotion. That takes time. That takes energy. That takes commitment. And it doesn't happen by default, typically, like that can be part of who we are, but still it needs tending, just like anything that's living, anything. That's so beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's so awesome. And I hope that when I'm however many years into my career as you are into yours, that I feel the same pride looking back in the mirror and saying like, you know what, you are still as committed and as devoted and as thirsty as the day you started. And you are not like getting complacent or, resting on your laurels or being just like, oh, well, that's enough, like there's more. And I think that there's a distinction to be made there around like, it's not so much for everybody listening. Like when I say that, and probably when you say that too, it's more about purpose and impact. You mentioned before that like all of your career decisions that led you to IBM were all about the money and the earning potential. And I think that can be part of our bigger vision, but ultimately it's also about like, I'm hungry to create the book that changes people's lives. I'm hungry to create more opportunities for people on my team. I'm hungry to create a better world through the work that we're doing. I'm hungry for those things and for my own fulfillment as well, and feeling successful on my own terms, but not necessarily. And I have more dreams coming, than it is about like a final destination. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Like,
well, I can tell you, I am pretty sure looking into your eyes, you will be as thirsty. So if I call you up in 15 years, you're going to be committed to evolving, expanding, and stretching.
Thank you for that. Yes. Yes. Awesome. Well, where can people find you or find out more about you? Where can they get the book?
There is a website, www.thebigstretch.com. That's where you really can get a lot of information about me, what I have going on, but most importantly, also the book. There is an assessment on that website that I created called a Dreamer Profile Assessment. And I would encourage all of your listeners, go take that assessment, and it will also help you determine what type of dreamer you are. I don't want to give it all away, but I also believe that there are different dreamer types, that it's not like a one size fits all. That content is there. It's available. Take that. And if you feel that the information that you get back is useful, then I would 100% say, then go ahead and get the book. So the book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, anywhere where you can purchase books. My handle on all social media programs is Teneshia, TENESHIA Warner.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to go to that website and find out. Although I think, can I find out my profile in the book?
Email me. Yeah, you can find out too in the book, but I want you to take the assessment and then email me what type of dreamer you are.
Oh, I will. I'm so excited.
I can take a guess already. I'm going to write down my guess. I think you identified with a couple, but I want you to write me and tell me which one.
Okay. I absolutely will. I'll do that today. Thank you so much again for joining.
Emily.
This was so fun and so inspiring and so insightful. And I'm really grateful for your time and for your work in the world. Thank you for doing what you do and being who you are.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm going to be checking out all of your sexy, soulful, dynamic women.
Yes. Awesome.
Hi, love. Thanks so much for listening to the Sexy Soulful Success podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode so that you won't miss any upcoming interviews or helpful advice from our incredible sisterhood and community of women entrepreneurs and leaders from across the globe. I have a few free gifts to share with you over on my website, emilycastle.com. On the homepage, you'll find 3 different tools for free support to help you grow and lead your soulful business with more intention, ease, and flow. And while you're on my site, you can also check out my 3 signature programs for aspiring and established women entrepreneurs. The Soulful Business Academy is my 12-month group coaching experience for aspiring and new entrepreneurs to build a strong foundation for your soul-aligned business and fearlessly launch your calling. This experience is open for you to join at any time, so you can head on over to my website to get started as soon as today and get plugged into incredible resources, support, and a community of like-hearted women. Thanks again for listening, and I can't wait to hear your feedback and suggestions in the reviews. If you have a topic you'd like me to discuss, or a question you'd like me to answer in an upcoming episode, or a guest you'd love for me to interview, you can pop those suggestions in with your rating and review. I hope to see you next week for another episode of Sexy Soulful Success.